Hello everyone, welcome back to the course of Software Architecture and Design Patterns. This video is brought to you by Newton's Group of Institutions in association with Redefined Solutions. This is Arvind Egireddy from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. In this video, we will discuss about Architecture Trade-off Analysis Methods, ATAM. ATAM, a comprehensive method for architecture evaluation. With Mark Kelvin, we evaluate the services that anyone renders to use according to the value it puts on them, not according to the value they have for us. In this video, we will discuss the architectural trade-off analysis methods, ATAM, a thorough and comprehensive way to evaluate the software architecture. Here, the ATAM is so named because it reveals how well the architecture satisfies the particular quality goals, and it provides insight into how the quality goals interact, that is, how they trade off. Evaluation and architecture for a large system is a complicated undertaking. First, a large system will have a comparably large architecture that will be difficult to understand in the limited amount of time. And second, according to some architects, architectural business cycle ABC, a computer system is intended to support the business goals, and the evaluation will need to make the connections between these goals and the technical decisions. And finally, a large system usually has multiple stakeholders, and acquiring their different perspectives in a limited amount of time requires careful management of an evaluation process. So, as we can see from this set of difficulties, managing the limited time for an architecture evaluation is a central problem. Mark Kelvin, who gave this definition, is a senior member of the technical staff of the Software Engineering Institute. The ATAM is designed to elect the business goals of the system as well as for the architecture. It is also designed to use those goals and stakeholders' participation to focus the attention of the evaluators on the portion of the architecture that is central to the achievement of the goal. So in this video, we will discuss about the steps of the ATAM and discuss them in the light of their intended purpose. Now coming to the participants in the ATAM, the ATAM requires the participation and mutual cooperation of three groups. First group, the evaluation team. This group is external to the project whose architecture is being evaluated, and it usually consists of 3 to 5 people. So in the next slide, we see the table for description of these roles along with a set of describable characteristics for each. So each member of the team is assigned a number of specific roles to play during the evaluation. The evaluation team may be a standing unit in which the architecture evaluations are regularly performed, or its members may be chosen from a pool of architectural survey for individuals for the occasion. So they may work for the same organization as the development team whose architecture is on the table, what we are going to see in the next slide, or they may be outside consultants. So in any case, they need to be recognized as a component which is unbiased outsider with no hidden agendas or access to the grid. Now coming to the second group, project decision makers. These people are empowered to speak for the development project or have the authority to mandate the changes to it. They usually include the project managers, and if there is an identifiable customer who is footing to build the development, he or she will be present as well. So the architecture is always included, as a cardinal rule of architecture evaluation is that the architecture must willingly participate. Finally, the person commencing the evaluation is usually empowered to speak for the development of the project. Even if not, he or she should be included in the group. And the third group is architecture stakeholders. Here, the stakeholders have a vested interest in the architecture performing as advertised. So they are the one whose ability to do their jobs hinges on the architecture promoting modifiability, security, high reliability, or the like. So stakeholders include developers, testers, integrators, maintainers, performance engineers, users, builders of the system interacting with one under consideration and some others. So here their job during an evaluation is to articulate the specific quality attribute goals that the architecture should meet in order to the system to be considered as a success. Now, as we have discussed in our first group that we are going to discuss about the table. Now, let us see the table, the responsibilities and the desirable characteristics. Here, the team leader, the first role is a team leader whose responsibility is to set up evaluation, coordination with the client, making current client's needs are met, establish evaluation constant. And here his characteristics is he should well organize with the managerial skills, good at interacting with the client and able to meet the deadlines. And the second role is evaluation leader. The responsibilities is he need to run the evaluations, facilitate the elections of the scenarios, administration scenarios and prioritization process. And his characteristics is he should be comfortable in front of the audience, excellent facilitation skills and good understanding of the architectural issues. And the third role is scenario scribe, who writes the scenarios on flip chart or whiteboard during the scenario elucidations, captures agreed on wording for each scenario, halting discussions until exact wordings is captured. And his characteristics is he should have good handwriting and a stickler about not moving on before an idea is captured and can absorb and distill to the essence of technical discussions. And the fourth role is proceeding scribe, who captures proceedings in electronic form on laptop or workstations, raw scenarios, issues that motivates each scenario. And his characteristics is good, fast typist, well organized for rapid recall of information, good understanding of the architectural issues. And the fifth role is a timekeeper who helps evaluating leaders stay on schedule, helps control amount of time devoted to each scenario during the evaluation phase. And his characteristics is willing to interrupt the discussions to call time. And the fifth role is process observer, whose responsibilities is to keep notes on how evaluation process could be improved or delivered from, usually keep silent but may make discrete process based suggestions to the evaluation leader during the evaluation. And coming to his characteristics, he is thoroughful observer, knowledgeable in the evaluation process, and should have previous experience in the architecture evaluation methods. And the next role is process enforce, who helps evaluation leaders remember and carry out the steps of the evaluation method. And his characteristics is he should be fluent in the steps of the method and willingness and able to provide the discrete guidances to the evaluation leader. And the last role is questionnaire. Here, the responsibilities of questionnaire is to raise issues of the architectural interest that stakeholders may not have thought of. And the desirable characteristic of these questionnaire is he should have good architectural insight, good insight into needs of the stakeholders, experience with the systems in similar domains, unafraid to bring up continuous issues and pursue them, and familiar with the attributes of concern. Now, let us see the outputs of an ATM. So here, an ATM, basically the evaluation will produce at least the following outputs. First one is a concise presence of the architecture. So here the architecture documentation is often thought to consist of an object model, a list of interfaces and their signatures, or some other voluminous list. But one of the requirements of the ATM is that the architecture be presented in 1 hour, which leads to the architectural presentation that is both concise and usually understandable. And the second output is articulation of the business goals. So frequently the business goals presented in the ATAM are being seen by some of the development team for the first time. And the third one is quality requirement in terms of collection scenarios. So here the business goals leads to the quality requirements, and some of the important quality requirements are captured in the form of scenarios. And the fourth one is a set of risk and non-risk. Here a risk is defined in the ATM as an architectural decisions that may lead to the understandable consequences in the light of state quality. So here the stated quality attribute requirements which are similar, which are non-sticky in architectural decisions. So upon the analysis, it deemed to be safe. So the identified risk can form the basis for the architectural risk mitigation plan. And coming to the next, a set of risk themes. So here, when the analysis is complete, the evaluation team will examine the full set of discovered risk to look for overarching themes that identify the systematic weaknesses in the architecture or even in the architecture process and team. So if left untreated, then these risks and themes will threaten the project's business goals. Now, the next one is mapping of architectural decision to quality requirements. So here the architectural decisions can be interpreted in terms of qualities that they support or hidden. So for each quality scenario examined during an ATAM, those architectural decisions that help to achieve it are determined. Next, a set of identified sensitivity and trade-off points. So here, these are the architectural decisions that have a marked effect on one or more quality attributes. Adapting a backup database, for example, is clearly an architectural decision as it affects the reliability. So here positively, and so it is a sensitive point with respect to the reliability. However, keeping the backup of current consumer systems resources and so affects the performance negatively. Hence, it is a trade-off point between the reliability and the performance. Whether this decision is risk or non-risk depends on whether its performance cost is excessive in the context of quality attributes requirements of the architecture. Now coming to these, the outputs are used to build the finals which are written reports that recaps the methods and which summarizes the proceedings that are being captured as a scenario and their analysis. So here there are some other secondary outputs as well. Very often representations of the architectures will have been created expressly for the evaluation and many of the superiors to whatever they exist before. So this additional documentation surveys, the evaluation can perform the part of the project's legacy. Also the scenarios created by the participants are expressions of the business goals and requirements for the architecture and can be used to guide the architectural evaluation. Finally, the analysis contains the final report that can serve as a statement of rationale for certain architectural decisions that are being made or which are not yet made. So the secondary outputs are tangible and enumerable. So there are intangible results at the ATAM based evaluations, and these include a palpable sense of community on the part of the stakeholders. So open communication channels between the architect and the stakeholders, and a better overall understanding on the part of the participants of the architecture and its strengths and weaknesses. So, while these results are hard to measure, they are no less important than the others and are often are the longest lasting. So now let us see the phases of the ATM, that is steps to evaluate the phases. So here the activities in an ATM based evaluations are spread out over 4 phases. You can see here the 4 phases: phase 0, phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. So here in phase 0, the partnership and preparation, the evaluation team leadership and the key project decision makers informally meet to work out the details of the exercise. Here, the project representatives brief the evaluators about the project so that the team can be supplemented by the people who process the appropriate expertise. So together, the two groups agree on logistics such as the time and place of meeting, who bring the flip cards and who supplies the donuts and coffee. So they also agree on a preliminary list of stakeholders by name, not just by role, and they negotiate on when the final report is to be delivered and to whom. They handle formalities such as statements of work or non-disclosure agreements. So they work out delivery to the evaluation team and whatever the architectural documentation exists and may be useful. So finally, the evaluation team leaders explains what information the managers and the architects will be expected to show during the phase 1 and helps them construct their presentations if necessary. Whereas coming to the phase 1 and phase 2, these are evolution phases. So whenever everyone gets down to the business of analysis, by now the evaluation team will have studied the architectural documentation and will have a good idea of what the system is about. So the overall architectural approaches taken and the quality attributes that are of paramount importance, since during the phase 1 the evaluation team meets with the project decision makers usually for about a day to begin information gathering and analysis. For phase 2, the architecture's stakeholders joins the proceeding and analysis continues typically for 2 days. So the exact steps of phase 1 and phase 2 are detailed in the next slide. So here in phase 3 is followed up, in which the evaluation team produces and delivers a written final report. And the essence of this phase, however, is the team self-examination and improvement. So during this time, a post-mortem meeting, the team discusses about what went well and what did not. So they study the surveys handed out to the participant during the phase 1 and phase 2, and the process observer makes his or her report. So here the team members look for improvements in how they carry out their functions so that the next evaluation can be smoother or more effective. So here the team catalogs how much effort was spent during the evaluation on the part of each of these 3 participating groups. After an appropriate number of months, the team leader contacts the evaluation client to guide the long-term effect of the exercise so that the cost and benefits can be compared. Now, coming to the steps of the evaluation phase, that is phase 1 and phase 2. So here the ATM analysis phase 1 and phase 2 consists of 9 steps. Here step 1 through step 6 are carried out in phase 1. In phase 2, with all stakeholders present, those steps are summarized at step 7 through step 9. So here the analysis steps are nominally carried out in the sequential order according to the set of agenda, but sometimes there must be a dynamic modification to the schedule to accommodate the personal availability of the architectural information. So here every evaluation is unique and there may be times when the team returns briefly to the earlier steps or jumps forward to the later steps or iterates among the steps as they need. So here coming to the step 1, present the ATAM. So here the first step calls for the evaluation leader to present the ATAM to the assembled project representatives. Here this time is used to explain the process that everyone will be following to answer the questions and to set the context and expectations of the remainder of the activities. So using a standard presentation, the leader will describe the ATAM steps in brief and the outputs of the evaluation. Coming to step 2, present business drivers. So everyone involved in this evaluation, the project representatives as well as the evaluation team members need to understand the context for the syntax and the primary business drivers motivating its development. So in this step, the project decision makers present a system overview from the business perspective. So here the presentation should describe the system's most important functions, any relevant technical, managerial, economical or political constraints, the business goals and context as they relate to the project, or the major stakeholders and the architectural drivers. Whereas coming to the step 3, present architecture. Here, the lead architect or architecture team makes a presentation describing the architecture at an appropriate level of deal. So here the appropriate level depends on several factors. How much of architecture has been designed and documented, how much of time is available, and the nature and behavior of the quality requirements. So in this presentation, the architect covers a technical constraints such as operating system, hardware or middleware prescribed for the use, and other systems with which the system must interact. So here the most important is that the architect describe the architectural approach used to meet the requirements. So to make the most of the limited time, the architect's presentation should have a high signal to noise ratio. So here that is, it should convey the essence of the architecture and not stray into additional areas or explore too deeply into the details of just a few aspects. Thus, it is extremely helpful to brief the architect beforehand about the information the evaluation team requires. Now coming to the step 4, identify architectural approaches. Here the ATAM focuses on analyzing an architecture by understanding its architectural approaches. As we know, architectural patterns are useful for the known ways in which every one affects a particular quality attributes. So here, a layered pattern tends to bring the probability to a system, possibly at the expense of the performance. A data repository pattern is usually scalable in the number of procedures and consumers of the data and so forth. So by now the evaluation team will have a good idea of what patterns and approaches the architecture used in designing the system. So they will have studied the architectural documentation and they will have heard the architect's presentations, what we have seen in the step 3. So during that step, the architect is asked to explicitly name the patterns and approaches that are being used, but the team should also be adept to spotting ones not mentioned. So in this short step, the evaluation team simply catalogs the patterns and approaches that are evident. So the list is publicly captured by the script for all that what we see and will serve as the basis for the later analysis. Now coming to the step 5, generating QA utility tree. So here an architecture is either a suitable or unsuitable with respect to the ability to deliver a particular quality attributes to the systems that is being built from it. So here the highest performance architecture may be totally wrong for a system in which the performance is not nearly as important as say for example security. So here the important quality attributes goals for the architecture under consideration were named in the step 2 when the business drivers were presented, but not to any degree of specific that would permit the analysis. So here broad goals such as modifiability or high throughput or ability to be ported to a number of machines, which establishes important context and directions and provide a backdrop against which subsequent information is being presented. However, they are not specific enough to let us tell if the architecture meets our requirements. Modifiable in what way? Throughput, that is how high, are ported to what mechanics do. So here in this step, the quality attribute goals are expressed in detail via a mechanism known as utility tree. Here, the evaluation team works with the project decision makers to identify, prioritize, and refine the system's most important quality attribute goals, which has which are being expressed as scenarios. So here, the utility tree serves to make the requirements concrete, focusing the architecture and customer representatives to define precisely the relevant quality requirements that were working to provide. So a utility tree begins with utility at the root node, and utility is an expression of the overall goodness of the system. So quality attributes from the second level, because these are the components of the utility. Quality attributes named in the business drivers presented in step 2 make up the initial or seed set to this second level. So typically performance, modifiability, security, usability and availability are the children of utility, but participants are free to name their own. Now coming to the step 6, that is analyze architectural approaches. Here the evaluation team examines the highest ranked scenarios one at a time. So the architect is asked to explain how the architecture supports each one. Team members, especially the questionnaires, probe for the architectural approach that the architecture used to carry out the scenario. So along the way, the team documents the relevant architectural decisions and identifies and catalogs the risk, non-risk, sensitive points and trade-offs. So for well-known approaches, the team asks how the architect overcomes known weaknesses in the approach, or how the architect gained assurance that the approach is suffixed. So here the goal is for the evaluation team to be convinced that the instantiation of the approach is appropriate for meeting the attributes which are specific requirements for which it is intended. For example, the number of simultaneous database clients will affect the number of transactions that a database can process per second. Thus, the assessment of client to the server is a sensitive point with respect to the response as measured in the transaction per second. Some assessments will result in unacceptable values of this response, and these are risk. So when it turns out that the architectural decisions is sensitive point for more than one attribute, it is designated as a trade-off point. So the scenario walkthrough leads to the discussions of possible risks, non-risks, sensitive points and trade-off points. So these in turn may catalyze a deeper analysis depending on how the architect responds. Now coming to the step 7, brainstorm and prioritize scenarios. So here, when utility tree generation is used primarily to understand how the architect perceived and handled quality attributes architectural drivers, the purpose of scenario brainstorming is to take the pulse of the large stakeholder community. So here, scenario brainstorming works well in large groups, creating an atmosphere in which the idea and thoughts of one person stimulates the other ideas. So here the process fosters the communication and creativity and serves to express the collective mind of the participants. So the prioritized list of brainstorming scenarios is compared with those from the utility tree exercise. So if they agree, it indicates a good alignment between what the architect had in mind and what the stakeholders actually wanted. So if additional driving scenarios are discovered, this may itself be a risk, showing that there were some disagreement in goals between the stakeholders and the architect. So in this step, the evaluation team asks the stakeholders to brainstorm the scenarios that are operationally meaningful with respect to the stakeholders' individual roles. So a maintainer will likely propose a modified scenario. For example, while a user will probably come up with a scenario that expresses useful functionality or ease of operation, utility tree scenarios that have not been analyzed are fair game. So here the stakeholders are free to put them into the brainstorm pool, which gives them the opportunity to revisit scenarios from step 5 and step 6, so that they might feel receive too little attention. So once the scenarios have been collected, they must be prioritized for the same reason that the scenario is the utility tree which is needed to be prioritized. Now coming to step 8, analyzing architectural approaches. So after the scenarios have been collected and prioritized, the evaluation team guides the architects in the process of carrying out the highest ranked scenarios from the step 7. So here the architect explains how relevant the architectural decisions contribute to realizing the each one. So ideally, this activity will be dominated by the architect's explanation of the scenarios in terms of previously discussed architectural approaches. So in this step, the evaluation team performs the same activities in the step 6, mapping the highest ranked newly generated scenarios onto the architectural artifacts which are uncovered so far. Now coming to the step 9, so present results. Finally, the collected information from the ATM needs to be summarized and presented once again to the stakeholders. This presentation typically takes the form of a verbal report accomplished by slides, but it might be accompanied by more comprehensive written report delivered subsequently to the ATM evaluation. So in this presentation, the evaluation leader repeats the steps of the ATM and all the information collected in the steps of the method include the business context, driving requirements, constraints, and the architecture. So here the following outputs are presented. The architectural approaches are documented, the steps, the set of scenarios and their prioritization from the brainstorming, the utility tree is generated, the risk is discovered, the non-risk is documented, the sensitive points and trade-off points are found. So these outputs are all uncovered, publicly captured and cataloged during the evaluation. So in step 9, however, the evaluation team adds value by grouping risk into risk themes based on some common underlying concerns of the systematic deficiency. That's all for now. Thank you. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for the latest notifications.